The second part of your connectivities that are about vectors have to do with magnitude and components. So magnitude looks like this. They might write the word magnitude, or they might use this symbol, that double line with the vector in the middle. That means find the magnitude of u, and we're using the same u value that we had before. So 5, -3 is this vector that points down to the point, 5, -3. If they want the magnitude, they essentially want this length of, you can imagine that's like a hypotenuse. If I dropped a line down and over, I know this is 5, this is 3. It's just your Pythagorean theorem type of problems. So we know 5 squared is 25, 3 squared is 9. They might have you write the answer as just a square root on some of them, like the square root of 34. Or they might want a decimal. So come over to your calculator, and if you square rooted 34, okay, I get 5.83. They'll probably say round to the nearest tenth or the nearest hundredth. So something like that could either be 5.8 or 5.83. And that'll be the type of answer they're looking for. Again, magnitude, or this symbol meaning magnitude, is just essentially the length of the hypotenuse. Some of the problems they worded a little differently. Go ahead and read this. A dog walks 5 blocks east, then 3 blocks south. Find the total displacement. Displacement is basically the same thing as saying magnitude. So you can imagine 5 blocks east, 3 blocks south. Okay, they've just forced you to draw this same vector, and displacement would just mean how far away is the dog from where he started. And so you're finding that length, and again, they're probably going to want it either as a decimal or sometimes as a square root, but I'd say the majority of the time look for a decimal and look for them to tell you if they want you to round it to the nearest tenth or the nearest hundredth. Another type of problem you're going to see on Khan Academy would be something like this. They'll give you a person or an animal, tell you that they walked left, right, up, down, that type of thing, and they'll give you the total displacement. Okay, that's what we were just finding. That's the length of the hypotenuse, essentially. So here, if they said they went left and up, draw an angle coming out of the origin. Okay, so that's 13, right, the total displacement. And this angle here is the 40 degrees. Okay, so we're trying to find those two measurements. And they will either ask for the horizontal or the vertical. I'm going to show you how to find both, but they're only going to ask for one. So horizontal is this measurement, and since I went to the left, that's going to tell me that's a negative. And then I went up, that's going to be a positive. Okay, so be sure to include the positive and negatives in your answers. So if you remember from our unit circle, this measurement, your x value, is essentially your cosine, and your y value is sine. That's why we wrote it like that in our unit circle. So this measurement here would really just be whatever 13 cosine 40 degrees is. And you can literally just type that in your calculator. 13 cosine 40 degrees. It won't give you the negative. Again, you have to know that I'm headed to the left, and that's a negative direction. So if they ask for the horizontal, they want the x value, or the cosine, and that would be negative 9.96. They're usually going to ask for it to be rounded to 2 decimal places. If they had instead asked for the vertical, I would have done the same math, but I would have done this sine of 40 degrees because I want the up and down value of this. And that is a positive because I went up, and it'd be 8.36 once I rounded it. Okay, yet another type they're going to give you. We'll say you're traveling west or south or whatever. Again, just like the left and right and up and down, they're going to want the angle at the end. So if they said you traveled west, that's essentially the same thing as left. South, 7, they want the angle. So from here we know that's the opposite and the adjacent. So it'd be tangent, okay? Because I'm looking for the angle, I'm going to inverse that. And it's 7/5. And most of these angles are going to round to 1 decimal place, so 54.5 degrees. Okay, the last type of problem you're going to see on these 3 con activities will start out looking like this, and they want you to give the point, basically this end value, and that means they want the x and the y value. Okay, that's kind of like we were doing on the monkey problem. Horizontal and vertical displacement is just the measurement of the x and the y. Remember, we just took the length of, that's essentially the hypotenuse, times cosine or sine of whatever the angle is. So here, 12 is that measurement, and you'll either go cosine or sine, depending on if you want the x or the y, of 295 degrees. So for this first one, for the x, you go 12 cosine 295, and you'll round it. That'd be 5.07. And then for this one, for your y value, you're doing 12 sine 295 degrees, which would be negative 10.88. Do take the time to type those in your calculator. Make sure you're getting what I'm getting. And if that makes sense, you can just type it straight in the calculator, 12 cosine 295 or 12 sine 295. And that's the measurement of the hypotenuse and the whole angle. What this is that point, and that should kind of make sense by the drawing. It looks like it's over about 5 and down about 10. That's why this one's negative, this one's positive. That should be everything.